Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we usually go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. However, today we have a special bonus episode where we are going to chat about Netflix's 2024 musical crime film called Emilia Pérez. This one's directed by Jacques Audiard and stars Zoe Saldana, Karla Sofia Gascon, Selena Gomez, Adriana Paz, Ivanir and Edgar Ramirez. I'm Jesse, I'm your host. Thanks for jumping on board for this one. I don't know if anyone's going to listen to this one. That's how decisive this film is. This is a little bit of a weird bonus episode from me too. Like this Flix Forum podcast, we've done 400 plus Netflix original films, and I've watched all of these on Netflix in Australia. We're based in Australia, obviously. This is not a Netflix original film in Australia. However, so it's playing theatrically at the moment. So I really wanted to jump on and do a bonus episode on this because this is a big awards contender at the upcoming award. This film has already won some awards, but the big Academy Awards and the SAG Awards and those sorts of awards are still to come. And this film has lots of nominations, and I really wanted to talk about it, even though it isn't on Netflix in Australia. It is on Netflix in America and the UK, I believe. This is being pushed by Netflix at the Academy Awards. The Academy Awards are in America. Yes, they're a worldwide ceremony. However, if this film wins any awards, Netflix are going to get the credit for it. So that's why I'm doing this episode. I'm going to spoil this film as we go. So if you're interested in seeing this film, and if you're in the Northern Hemisphere where this is on Netflix, give it a watch. Otherwise, get out to your local cinema to check this one out, because we start the show with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one, it's about a drug kingpin / lord who reaches out to a talented lawyer for help with gender transition surgery and the relocation of their family. So that to me, that's the gist. This is a musical, and we're going to talk about this film and what people are saying about it, because as I said before, this film is a bit of a talking point at the moment. Let's talk about how the film was made, all that sort of stuff. The title Emilia Pérez is the name of a character in this film, so that makes sense. The only other title around the world where it's a little bit different, in Chinese, it's called Bright Woman's Dream, and I guess that gives away a little bit of the film as well. So this film, it's based on the director Jacques Audiard, his opera libretto of the same name, which itself was based on the 2018 novel called Echo by Boris Rozon. We go to January of 2022, where Télérama, which is a French weekly TV show, they released a 5-episode program covering in detail Jacques Audiard's pre-production process for this film. He developed the screenplay from what was originally intended to be an opera libretto, like I said before, in 4 acts. The title character, Emilia Pérez, was inspired by a chapter from the book that I mentioned before as well. This film marks the first time that the director has written a film alone without a partner. And I guess we sort of picked up there that this film is in Spanish. It's based in Mexico, and it's directed by a French person who says they didn't actually do a lot of research about Mexico. So, like I said, there is a little bit of controversy around this film, which we will get to. So, production on this film was meant to begin in autumn of 2022, but was delayed by 6 months due to lots of scheduling conflicts with the cast members. It was going to be filmed in Mexico, but was moved to a studio near Paris instead, in accordance with the director's wishes. The interior scenes included a reconstruction of an authentic Mexican backdrop. Audiard, the director, stated that the studio setting would afford him the ability to produce more form and give him more freedom for the parts that are sung and choreographed. Principal photography did begin in May of 2023 in the Ile-de-France region before wrapping on the 5th of July 2023. Gascon, who is one of the main actors in this film, I think I mentioned before, Karla Sofia Gascon, she wished to portray Emilia Pérez both in the pre-surgery and post-surgery stages in the film. Just like the character in the film, the Spanish actress is also a trans woman in real life. This is the first film she starred in as an actress after announcing her transition in 2018. Before that, she had a long career as a male presenting actor in Spain and especially in Mexico. The film, Emilia Pérez, was selected to compete for the Palme d'Or at the 2024 Cannes Film Festival, where it had its world premiere on the 18th of May 2024. The film did receive a standing ovation. Shortly after its premiere, Netflix beat out multiple studios and was in negotiations to acquire distribution rights to the film for North America and the UK for $12 million. And I think eventually they ended up paying $8 million for it. The film was theatrically released in France on the 21st of August 2024, and world sales for international distribution were handled by the veterans. The film did make its North American premiere at the 51st Telluride Film Festival, and it also played at the Toronto International Film Festival on the 9th of September 2024 and the San Sebastian International Film Festival. It did receive a limited theatrical release in the USA and Canada on the 1st of November before debuting on Netflix on the 13th of November 2024 in the US, UK, and Canada. Critics and advocacy age organisations in and from the LGBTQ community have been critical of this film and the transgender representations in the film, as well as Mexican audiences being very critical of the film because of its lack of sensitivity and the way it portrays the Mexican community, in particular, the way that they sort of live, I guess, in and around the drug cartels. There was a parody short film called Johann Sacre Bleu, which was set in France and filmed in stereotypical French accents, but starred Mexicans and filmed in Mexico. It was released by Camila Aurora, a trans Mexican content creator. The film follows the main character, a trans woman, and heir to France's largest baguette company, as she falls in love with a character called Ratatouille. So these are some stereotypes of French that some of us would know. And Ratatouille is a trans man and rival head of France's largest croissant company. The film went viral and it reached millions of views after a few days of release online. I did jump on board to check this out, just to give me some context before I did this episode. Oh man, I get what they're trying to do, and I get that it's meant to be a comedy and it's ripping off and making fun of the poor representations in Emilia Pérez, but man, it was really bad. It was shock. Like, it was such a struggle to watch. So all of the the critical acclaim that you see for this parody short film, it's a lot of tongue-in-cheek in it as well, almost giving it positive recognition because of people's hatred towards this film, Emilia Pérez. This is a little bit of a funny one, I thought. The film, it won the award for Best Picture, Musical or Comedy at the 2025 Golden Globe ceremony. The director, Luca Guadagnino, who was there and nominated for his film Challenges, walked out of the room when the announcement happened. So not a fan of this film, possibly. While promoting the film Emilia Pérez, Selena Gomez, who is also in this film, said in several interviews that she's not actually fluent in Spanish and did not feel happy about her Spanish in the film. There was a lot of criticism about her Spanish and her poor Spanish in the film. So the studio that released the film started a campaign saying that the character in the film isn't actually Mexican anyway, but American, but that it's never pointed out in the movie. Even mentioning that the character is from Monterrey, Mexico. In the film, she switches from Spanish to English in all of her scenes from the film, so giving further support to sort of support Selena Gomez, who has probably had a rough couple of years, to be honest. All right, in Australia, this came out in theatres on the 16th of January 2025, so only a couple of weeks ago. As I mentioned before, it was filmed in France. The award season, I'm not going to go into every single award, but if we look at the award season so far, it's actually won 84 awards and still has 223 nominations. That's pretty crazy, as well as the upcoming Academy Awards, where it has a leading 13 nominations. I think this is a bit of a moment, I guess, where I can sort of say I think this awards season feels a little bit dirtier, a little bit more grimy than others. People, journalists, film studios, they're digging, they're trying to leak things to sort of put each other's campaigns down. I mean, the last week, I guess, if you think about The Brutalist, which is a frontrunner, I guess, for Best Picture and a lot of the acting nominations too, there's been a lot of criticism around the use of AI to change the Hungarian dialect in some of the scenes of that film as well. I mean, this film, Emilia Pérez, it used voice AI. It's acknowledged in the credits at the end of the film. But I guess also in the last few days of January 2025, the lead performer, Gascon, the journalists have dug up a lot of dirt and past tweets from the actress, like lots of racist, Islamophobic, and anti-vaccination remarks from Twitter over the years. I think if you go back, there's some commentary around the 93rd Academy Awards where she tweeted about Daniel Kaluuya and Jo Jung, and they were winning awards at this ceremony. And I think she tweeted something like, "This is an Afro-Korean festival." And she later deleted these tweets and apologized. But you look at the George Floyd, big moment in America, about police brutality against African Americans, and this led to the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020. And Gascon tweeted about that as well, and called George Floyd a drug addict swindler who became a martyr hero when he was killed by an idiot policeman. So lots of digging to sort of push people or voters, not people necessarily in society, because I think this film's probably copped enough criticism it is, but to say to the Academy Award voters, hey, why has this film got 13 nominations? Why is this leading the pack? Why is it one of the films with the most nominations of all time? And maybe people are pushing for that idea, don't award this film, which I find crazy. It's such an interesting sort of thing. Let's get into it a little bit more. The critics, the audiences, what are they saying about this film? I've sort of mentioned a little bit that there is some negativity around this film. But on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics sits at 74%. So it is certified fresh on 247 reviews. So you'd say positive from the critics. You look at the audience, it sits at 19%. That is so low for a film that's been nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, and that's on over 5,000 ratings. That's wild. IMDb, like with a few of the recent films, a little bit, the number-wise, a little bit low. There's only 51,000 ratings, and it sits at a 5.8 out of 10, so I wouldn't say that's too bad. Letterboxd, on the other hand, this sits at a 2.3 out of 5 on nearly 330,000 ratings, and it's been logged by 379,000 people. That is a lot of people, and that is a very low score. However, Metacritic, the system that uses the traffic light system of red, green, and yellow. Is that the right order? No, it should be like green, yellow, and red, or red, yellow, and green. Anyway, the critics, it's green. It sits at 71 out of 100. That's on 54 critic reviews. And the audience, it sits at 6.5 out of 10 on nearly 1,300 reviews. That is a lot of audience reviews, and also green. So, bit of a mixed bag. I think there's some people that are going out of their way to say negative things about this film, whereas some of the critics are probably a little bit more positive about this film. And I guess that leads us into my early thoughts on this film. What are my thoughts on this film? I don't want to ostracize the audience or anything like this, but because I think the negativity around this film, when I watched it, I had really low expectations, which isn't necessarily a bad thing to go into a film, because I ended up enjoying this. I'm not a fan of the behind the scene things for the film, the negative representations, but for an enjoyment level and what I'm seeing and what I'm watching, I liked it. What I heard, I guess, in the film with some of the songs, there were some shocking songs, so that doesn't stand out. But other than that, this film holds up for me. I did enjoy this film. All right, let's talk about some characters in this film. So the film, it starts off with Rita, Zoe Saldana's character. She's a lawyer, and she's hired by this crime boss, Manitas, who wants this support to get gender surgery. And this sort of turns into not only supporting in this, but supporting in resettling her family and supporting her cause in helping families who have lost people due to the drug trade. I found Rita a very interesting character. From the start, she's sort of shown as someone who's possibly frustrated with the legal system, and it's a system that she believes supports those that possibly don't deserve it. So it was interesting that she jumped on board with probably a character that, if she was having to represent in the courtroom, would feel very against doing that. And I think that she jumps in to help someone that she probably shouldn't, and that leads, I guess, to a transformation, not only in supporting Emilia in her transformation, but her own judgments as well, especially towards the end, where she goes to whatever measure is needed to protect Emilia, which I was sort of surprised with, and I'll probably talk about a little bit later on too. Then we've got Manitas, or Emilia, a very tricky character. It's like the idea, you start off as a crime boss, but wants to be true to themselves and change their gender, and this is all done under a lie, and it's tricky because not only lying to your wife, but your children, and removing yourself from that situation where you're with your children as well. And that's where it leads to that idea that, a parent struggles without their kids, so it leads back to them as well. And I think Emilia is a very easy character to empathize with, even though this character has done so much wrong. You want to see her happy, especially once she meets Epifania, who she falls in love with as well. And I think that, this Epifania character, who comes very late in the film and as this love interest, sort of helps ground Emilia a little bit too, and continues Emilia's message and values at the end, this transformation of a character. The last character I'll talk about is Jessie, who is Manatas's wife, who carried his children and mourned his death. She's a tricky character. Selena Gomez plays this character. She's benefited from crime and really has no reason to care about the outside world until that money supply is cut off. She's obviously been lonely. She's mourned her husband's death and finds this new love in Gustavo, who, like Manatas, has worked in the drug game, so has supplied her with the monetary things that she's needed as well. So a little bit of an interesting character that we sort of, towards the end, you sort of understand a little bit where she lies, but isn't really given much in the film, to be honest. The director, Jacques Audiard, has 29 writing credits and 17 directing credits. It was interesting that there was one credit that really stood out. The one that I knew was this film called The Sister's Brother, which he wrote and directed. And it's this Western-type film that stars a big American cast. It's got John C. Reilly, Joaquin Phoenix, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Riz Ahmed. So I remember watching that, enjoying that film. Obviously, Jake Gyllenhaal. If you know me, I love Jake Gyllenhaal. So from memory, that was why I watched it, not because of the director or anything, but another film that was quite good. So if you can find that one, give that one a watch. Let's talk about the scenes. What are some scenes that stood out? What are some scenes that weren't too good? We'll start off with a good scene. So as a general comment, the choreography, the dance, the camera work, the editing throughout really impressed me. I thought it was really well made, this film. Like, visually, it really stood out. I think there's a scene, it's in London. It's in a restaurant where Rita's sitting with a bunch of people and comes across Emilia years later. The lighting, the camera work, the mise-en-scène, also well done, especially with that idea about changing lives. I think this is another moment, which is a song. This is a musical, so most of these scenes are going to revolve around songs, but there's this song, I think it's the favourite for the Oscars, but it's where Emilia is on stage asking all the drug lords and the gangsters for money for her organisation, and Rita is singing about all these bad people in the room that are finally going to pay. I thought that was good. The first time that we meet Epifania, who is Emilia's love interest, she's in the bathroom the restroom at Emilia's work, and she has a knife in her bag and is about to be taken into Emilia's office to meet her. I felt really on edge, and I had this belief that she was there to attack Emilia. It was a really good switch up, and it had this funny reveal where, she explains to Emilia that she bought a knife to use on her husband if he was alive and he was there. And Emilia asks her, "Did you really bring a knife?" And she shows the knife, and then Emilia flashes that she's got a gun too for her own protection. I thought that was funny and very important in some of the messages in this film about some of the lack of safety and concern that females may feel. There's a scene where Jessie, Selena Gomez's character, does karaoke with Gustavo. Very cleverly done. It was edited really well. To the lyrics for the song were on the screen. I thought that was really well done, and it led into this scene where Jessie rocks up late home, and it does obviously lead into a little bit of conflict with Emilia. But there was a funny moment where the kids were there ready for school, and Emilia's providing everything for them. They have this arcade skiing game to help remind them of Switzerland, where they'd been hiding out for so long. And then as the kids go to school, there's so many maids in this house. It just shows how much money Emilia has. But that idea that the maids quickly jump on to have a go at this arcade too, I thought that was funny. There's a song where Rita is stuck, I guess, in the middle of both Jessie and Emilia, and they're both complaining to her on the phone about Jessie's complaining because Emilia's taken the money away and doesn't understand how she can do that, and Emilia's complaining because Jessie's taken the kids away. I just thought that was really well done. Rita, at the end, towards the end of the film, Emilia gets kidnapped, and Rita decides to call on all her gangsters, and they've all got weapons and they've got guns, and it was really clever how the preparation of those weapons was done to the beat of the music, as well as, I think maybe it's a more however, Rita took a gun herself. And to me, I think that was definitely not what she stood for throughout this film. And it was a little bit confusing, I guess, but at the same time, I guess it proved her connection and her friendship to Emilia. It had grown so much that she would do anything for her. Finally, the car explosion at the end with Gustavo, Jesse, and Emilia in it, that really got me. I didn't think that they would kill them off. Obviously, I didn't know anything about this film before I watched it, but I was not expecting them to, see their demise at the end of this film. What didn't I like about this film? What wasn't any good? There are a lot of lyrics in this film. Probably a few of these are going to be lyrics from songs. The first song, this is literally the opening scene. The lyrics are like, we buy mattresses, stoves, washing machines, and microwaves. I mean, it probably sets the tone for the lyrics to come in the film, but that really stood out for me. I think that the next poor lyric was... Rita was singing about what does she have to do to sort of stand out in the legal profession or the legal world, and she goes, "What do I have to lose? My fat ass." This is Zoe Saldana singing this. Like, come on, please. It just was not right. There's the Bangkok. Zoe Saldana's character Rita goes to Bangkok to sort of investigate the surgery that she's trying to organise for Manitas, and it's just this white, sterile room. Like, the choreography is great, all that sort of stuff. But the lyrics in this song were, I want to know about a sex change operation, penis to vagina. It's a musical. I get, no, it's not just the translation. I don't think. I think poor choice in lyrics. There's a moment where Emilia was singing about desiring to be herself, and there were some lyrics about the depth of my soul to smell like honey. I don't know. I didn't get it. I just thought it was funny. There's a moment where Jessie leaves a voicemail for her lover, Gustavo, saying, "My PUSSY hurts when I think about you." Come on. How is that a line of dialogue? Finally, Emilia sings with one of her sons. She comes home one night and her son couldn't sleep, walks in, sits there without the son knowing that it's their father. And this song has lines like, "I love the smell of you, Papa." I get it. And then all the things that the smells remind the kid of. It was like, you smell like mountains, coffee, food, sugar, lamb, the engine of a car, pebbles, the sun, dogs, guacamoles, cigars. And I think this one's the one that's probably been laughed about the most. The smell of Coca-Cola Light with lemon and ice cubes. Horrendous. All right. Themes, ideas. What's this film trying to say? It's saying some good things. It's talking about transformation and identity and being true to yourself and following what you need and living authentically, because change can be positive. There's also a big part in this film is about the female struggle, especially through violence. Men being protected through the legal system. There's little justice for people who lose their families as well. And in the world of the drug crime and things like that, a lot of families are missing people, and you see that through sadness, through lots of montages and cuts through as well. Redemption plays a big part too. The idea of seeing the bad that you may have done in the past and trying to atone for it as well, and that leads into the idea of right and wrong and good and evil. And Emilia Pérez as a character represents a shift in Mexico. I know it's hard to say this because it's a French director, but that idea from accepting what happens to the victims in the drug trade to standing up for it, and we see this in the scene where they're making the drug trade people donate to Emilia's foundation to support families of crime. Yes, I know it's an iffy thing to sort of say when it's a French director, but it stands out. What else did I take away from this film? I think there's one of the songs in the film. It was, and I'm sure I don't know the titles of any of the songs, but one of the songs it was about the families that are all filling out these forms to find their loved ones, and they're talking about how they're looking for the people. And there's this black screen that the faces of the family pop up on the screen. I just couldn't help but think or feel that there was some sort of inspiration from Queen the band, their Bohemian Rhapsody film clip as well. It just reminded me of so much. Some questions, some pondering, some ideas, some thoughts. I think as an audience, you understand the crimes that Emilia has committed in her past. I would argue, though, it's hard not to feel compassionate for her character. And I think that's a pretty impressive feat in a film. You've got a character who we meet at the start as a scary character, everyone fears, murders people, but then the last 3/4 of the film, you feel compassion for this character. I think that was a very, that's a pretty hard thing to do, but very well done. The only other thing, I think at the start, this is very random. At the start, Rita, in one of the songs, to get away from the situation, she asks a character for a tampon to go to the bathroom. I saw it was a very weird piece of dialogue that sort of threw me off a little bit, and I went into this film knowing very little. I mentioned that. I like to do that with films. I don't want to know too much about it, but this made me feel the whole time that there was going to be some sort of twist that Rita wasn't actually female. Is that just me? There were other moments throughout the film where I was like, is there a twist coming that Rita is so involved in this too because she's gone through a similar thing? I don't know, it just sort of sat there in the back of my mind, and I'm not sure if they were trying to do that. I don't know if anyone else thinks that as well. Anyway, I'm ready to wrap this one up. We give the film a rating out of 5 on this show, and I completely understand why this film is so divisive. It's tricky. I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent, I think. Nosferatu. I saw Nosferatu recently. The recent film, the remake of the 20s film. It stood out visually for me. I really thought visually it was so well made. It was so well put together. It looked so good. But narrative-wise, I was bored. Whereas this film, similar, not similar, but I think visually it really stood out for me, and I was impressed by that. But it did have some absolutely horrendous dialogue and lyrics, but I was engaged and connected throughout. And it's not the best film of the year at all. It's far from it, but I thought it was still really well made. It looked good, had some good performances, and it sort of had me the whole time. And it's a film. I can't always go into a film going, I'm going to analyze the absolute living daylights out of it and critique it for everything. Sometimes you've got to sit back and go, hey, I watched this film, I kind of enjoyed it, and I guess I can't be embarrassed about that, even though there's a lot of people that do hate this film. So I'm giving this a 4 out of 5, which is a pretty high score compared to what a lot of people are saying. We're on socials. We've got Facebook. We've got Instagram. We have X, formerly known as Twitter. The question that I want to pop out with this episode is the Oscars are coming up. How many Oscars do you think this film will win? It has a leading 13 nominations. So not many films have had 13 nominations before. Yeah, I think Oppenheimer possibly did last year, but apart from that, it's like the Lord of the Rings films, the really big epic films. And this isn't like this isn't one of those big epic films. So it's nominated for Best Picture. It's nominated for Best International Feature Film. I don't think it's going to win Best Picture. High chance it might win Best International Feature Film. The director, Jacques Audiard, is nominated for Best Director. I don't think he's going to win there. Karla Sofia Gascon is nominated for Best Actress. Based on what I mentioned before, I don't know if she's going to have a chance now because of the negative publicity that she's receiving. Zoe Saldana is nominated for Best Supporting Actress. I think she's been a favourite throughout, so it might win there. So that would give us 2 so far. It's nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. Interesting. This is Best Adapted Screenplay is probably not going to go to this film. It's nominated also for Best Film Editing, Best Sound, Best Cinematography, Best Makeup and Hairstyling, Best Original Score, and Best Original Song. Out of all of those, it's got 2 nominations for Best Original Song. Out of all of those, I think the song is El Mal. I think that's the one that possibly might win. So this could walk away with 3 Oscars at the end of the day. We'll see. We'll come back and check. I will do an episode before the Oscars with some of my predictions, I think, because I've nearly knocked off all of the films that are up there with the awards and would like to have a little bit of a chat about it. But other than that, let us know on socials. How many awards do you think this will win at the Oscars? I'm going with 3. Let's see. I'm going to lock 3 in. 3 out of 13. It's not a good strike rate, but probably more than a lot of people would think should get. As always, we do have a huge back catalogue. We've got 400 plus episodes on Netflix original films. Have a search, have a look, have a listen to something if you enjoyed this. We are back on Monday with our normal episode. As always, thanks for joining me, and hopefully you'll hear my voice soon.